When Kody Brown finally walked away from Kody, one woman lost her grip, another found her voice, and the one left crying turned that heartbreak into a legend of pain. But behind every tear was a hidden design, years of control, guilt, and the illusion of faith holding them all hostage. Tonight, we uncover the goodbye that freed them all. How Kody's courage and Meri's quiet rebellion shattered America's most famous plural marriage, and why Robyn's tears may have been the family's final act.
I literally just compartmentalized the heartbreak. I don't know what to do.
Part 1. For years, Kody was the sunshine of the Brown family, the laughter, the warmth, the glue. But behind that warmth was exhaustion, years of being unseen. While Kody drifted toward Robyn, the youngest, the newest, the favorite, Kody faded into the background. Until one day, she made the decision that changed everything. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a revolution, one woman standing against a belief system that told her endurance was love. But when Kody walked away, Robyn didn't just cry. She rewrote history. Robyn's reaction was immediate tears, disbelief, and a story that quickly centered around her own pain. To millions watching, it felt like déjà vu. Another conversation where Robyn wasn't the bystander, she was the victim. But what struck fans most was what came next. Instead of explaining Kody's need for peace, Robyn told her daughters that Kody didn't want a relationship with them anymore. The words hit like a hammer, rewriting a goodbye into rejection. It wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. The fallout was instant. Robyn's children were heartbroken, confused, and worst of all, misled. By shifting the narrative, Robyn placed Kody in the villain's seat, not the woman who tried to survive a loveless marriage, but the mother figure who abandoned her bonus kids. Viewers flooded social media. Words like manipulative, performative, and emotional blackmail started trending. But the question remained, was Robyn truly heartbroken, or heartbreak's director? As Kody said her gentle goodbyes, Robyn cried louder. And when the cameras cut, she told her children a story that wasn't true, that Kody wanted nothing to do with them. It was the moment empathy turned into theater. But what Robyn didn't expect was the public. Fans saw through the tears not a woman betrayed, but a woman performing betrayal. Kody's leaving became Robyn's biggest stage. And in that performance, she taught her children the most dangerous lesson of all, that victimhood can be inherited. But every performance has a curtain call. Months later, the truth emerged. Kody reached out quietly. She'd never said she didn't want a relationship with Robyn's kids. What she wanted was distance from manipulation, not love. It shattered the illusion. Robyn's tears weren't about losing a sister wife. They were about losing control of the story. The real heartbreak wasn't Kody leaving. It was realizing how long Robyn had made everyone believe she was powerless, when all along she was pulling the strings. And now, fans ask, if victimhood is power, what happens when the world stops believing you? Today, Kody thrives love, laughter, and life beyond the drama. Meanwhile, Robyn remains in the shadow of her own script, a character trapped by her performance. In the end, Maybe Christine didn't just leave a marriage. She escaped a storyline one written in tears, but edited for sympathy. Because when the cameras stop rolling, truth doesn't cry, it reveals. Do you think Robyn was misunderstood or manipulative? Tell us below. If you believe Christine finally found her peace, hit like. Part 2. Years ago, sister wives promised the dream of unity: 4 women, 1 faith, 1 family. But behind the shared meals and spiritual talk was a hierarchy of affection and control. Meri, the first wife, once the foundation of the family, became the outsider in her own home. Christine, the nurturer, slowly realized love was no longer shared, but rationed. And Robyn, the youngest, the chosen, the one whose tears carried the power to shift Kody's world. But power built on tears always comes with a price. When Christine finally left, the moment should have been sacred closure, peace, and mutual respect. But Robyn made it a performance. It was the statement that shocked fans and broke hearts. Robyn told her daughters that Christine no longer wanted them in her life, a rewriting of reality that turned love into rejection. Reddit exploded. YouTube analysis channels called it the victim script. Fans noticed a pattern. Every emotional conflict turned into Robyn's pain. Every loss became her narrative. But what if Robyn's tears weren't about Christine leaving, but about losing control? While Robyn cried for sympathy, Meri chose silence, then action. After years of emotional starvation and rejection, Meri Brown decided to live again. Those 12 words spoken coldly on national television were the spark. For the first time, Meri didn't chase, didn't beg. She simply said, "Then let it be." It wasn't dramatic, it was dignified. The quiet confidence of a woman who'd finally stopped waiting for validation. And while Robyn wept for cameras, Meri smiled for herself. 2 women, 2 paths, one trapped in emotional theatrics, the other reborn in peace. The contrast became impossible to ignore. Viewers who once pitied Meri began to admire her resilience. And fans who once sympathized with Robyn began to question her motives. Christine found love with David Woolley. Meri found independence. And Robyn? She found herself in isolation, the architect of her own emotional fortress. But what happens when the Queen of Tears runs out of an audience? Months later, the truth unraveled. Christine had never rejected Robyn's children. She simply drew boundaries for peace, not punishment. Yet Robyn's story had already spread a tale of abandonment, painted in tears. The public saw through the illusion. Robyn's narrative collapsed under its own contradictions, while Christine and Meri stood taller than ever. What began as a breakup became a movement of women reclaiming themselves from spiritual and emotional captivity. And in the story Robyn tried to control, she became the symbol of everything Christine and Meri escaped. Christine now glows beside her new love, David Woolley, laughter replacing tears, freedom replacing fear. Meri runs her business with strength and pride, no longer defined by anyone's rejection. And Robyn remains where it all began, behind a curtain of tears, watching the world move forward without her. In the end, it wasn't Christine who broke the family. It was the courage to walk away and the grace to finally live free. If you believe Christine and Meri are finally living their truth, hit that like button now. Comment below. Who do you think was the real survivor, Christine, Meri, or Robyn? Let's deep dive in full details. Part 3. It began as a faith experiment. 4 wives, 1 husband, 1 eternal covenant. But even heavenly promises can fracture under human favor. That sentence was a warning the world didn't hear. To Christine and Meri, it was the moment they became invisible. By 2015, legal reform in Utah had forced the Browns to move to Nevada, their family already fractured under law and love. Meri struggled with loneliness that would later lead to the infamous catfishing scandal. Christine buried her hurt in smiles and service. But when love turns to favoritism, it's only a matter of time before faith becomes fiction. Christine's decision to leave was calm, clear, and courageous. She wanted respect, not revenge. But the goodbye wasn't allowed to be peaceful. Within hours, Robyn reframed the story. It was a sentence that cut deeper than divorce. Fans flooded Reddit and Facebook forums, accusing Robyn of emotional manipulation. "She's teaching her kids to be victims," one viewer wrote. Christine never said those words. But by the time truth traveled, Robyn's version had already won sympathy. That is how stories become weapons. And while Robyn cried on camera, Meri watched silently, realizing she had lived that same script for years. Meri was the first wife, the legal one, the woman who signed papers so Robyn could marry Kody legally. The world saw loyalty, but Meri saw herself vanishing. Those 12 words ended a 30-year spiritual union. No explosion, no tears, just a woman finally hearing silence as truth. Psychologists call this moment emotional closure through acknowledgement, when a long-ignored partner accepts that validation will never come. For Meri, that acceptance became freedom. And while Robyn wept for what she lost, Meri smiled for what she found. It was a tale of 2 energies, grief that consumed and grief that transformed. On YouTube panels and Facebook groups, fans called Christine and Meri the Phoenix Wives. One comment read, "They turned Kody's rejection into their rebirth." Christine found love again with David Woolley, a man who celebrated her humor and strength. Meri found independence through her business and self-development coaching. Their journeys echo a larger cultural trend. U.S. divorce statistics show that women who leave emotionally neglectful relationships report a 40% increase in life satisfaction within 2 years. And yet, while 2 women rose, 1 woman watched her kingdom crumble. Months after Christine left, the truth surfaced in interviews and court filings. Christine had never cut contact with Robyn's kids. The real issue was distance from toxicity, not children. In Utah and Arizona, polygamy laws had already shifted, removing the Brown family's religious shield. Freedom was now legal, and emotional freedom followed. Robyn's victim narrative collapsed. Kody himself admitted on camera, "Maybe I made them feel unloved." But by then, Christine and Meri were already gone. Reddit called it the season of awakening. TikTok trends used Meri's quotes as empowerment audio. "I deserve to be happy." The real twist? The show that began as a story of plural marriage ended as a story of female liberation. And this time, no one cried for permission. Christine's goodbye wasn't an ending. It was a mirror for Meri. Both women proved that sometimes the greatest act of faith is walking away. Today, Christine radiates joy. Meri teaches resilience, and Robyn remains in the house that faith built, but freedom emptied. The story is no longer about wives sharing a man. It's about women reclaiming themselves. In the end, the family didn't break because love died. It broke because two women chose themselves instead. Before the tears of goodbye, there was the signing of a paper, one quiet decision that changed everything. In 2014, Meri legally divorced Kody so that he could marry Robyn and adopt her children. It was called an act of faith, but for Meri, it was a surrender. Utah's anti-bigamy law, Section 76-7-101, had already pushed the Browns into hiding years earlier. The family's plural status was no longer recognized by law, but inside their home, it still ruled every emotion. When Robyn's marriage became legal, Meri became spiritual, invisible on paper, and eventually in Kody's eyes. The shift wasn't loud. It was written in who got the paperwork and who lost the promise. And from that moment on, every wife knew love in the Brown family came with a hierarchy. As Christine packed her boxes and Meri found her smile, the internet became the fifth wife, loud, opinionated, and unfiltered. We watched manipulation in real time, one Redditor wrote. Christine's strength saved Meri from repeating history, said another. On Facebook, fan groups filled with women sharing their own stories, marriages where faith was used as a leash. And on YouTube, reaction channels titled it the Sisterhood Awakening. The conversation had shifted. It wasn't about plural marriage anymore. It was about emotional survival, self-worth, and starting again. Christine and Meri stopped being reality TV characters. They became mirrors for millions of women asking, "What if I left too?" Silence has a weight. In those quiet moments, when no cameras spoke, healing began. Every footstep was a sentence she'd never been allowed to finish. According to the American Psychological Association, women leaving emotionally neglectful relationships report up to a 40% increase in overall life satisfaction within 2 years. Christine and Meri's stories fit that pattern, the arc from survival to self-realization. Sociologists call it the awakening phase, when a person stops defining love as sacrifice and begins to see peace as proof of growth. That's why their journeys resonated far beyond reality TV. Because deep down, every woman watching recognized a piece of her own silence in theirs. And this time, healing wasn't whispered in prayer, it was shouted online. After the final credits rolled, messages poured in. A fan wrote, "Christine helped me leave a 20-year marriage with dignity." Another said, "Meri taught me that starting over at 50 isn't failure, it's freedom." Christine posted, "I feel peace like I've never felt before." Meri added, "I am no longer who I was." If you've ever had to reclaim your voice after being silenced, hit that like button to honor Christine and Meri's journey. Comment below. Who inspired you most? Christine's courage or Meri's rebirth? Subscribe for next week's investigation. Kody Brown, the patriarchy collapse and the rise of the sisterhood. And remember, freedom isn't found in permission, it's found in truth.